Hello everyone. Welcome back to another part of What If Deku Was Iron Man. Please, if you enjoy, like, subscribe and support the original writer mrkage. Now let's dive in. Momo cracked her eyes open and smacked her lips. She was dizzy. Her face, arm and back were in dull pain. She blinked and looked around. She was laying on the hospital bed. That suggested infirmary. She tried to rise up, but a pair of hands caught her by shoulders. "Hey, easy there," Shinso-san said in gentle tone. He was sitting on the stool. "You have concussion. Recovery girl healed you as much as she could." "How long was I out?" Her voice was hoarse. "About 20 minutes. May answered, walking towards her, wrapped in a blanket. She looked much better. "How are you feeling?" she asked worryingly. Girl sat on the bed and took Momo's hand in her. "Like I ran into an angry Pomeranian," she joked, making them all chuckle. She squeezed the palm. "And you?" "Still a bit cold," girl admitted with a shrug. "Thanks for all those blankets," she grinned at her. "No problem." Momo replied with small smile and looked around. "Where's Izuku?" "After recovery girl patched you up, he left to prepare," Shinso-san informed her. "But he told me to give you this," he said, presenting her with earpiece. She slid it on. "Izuku? Momo? How are you feeling?" he asked in concern. "Better. Where are you?" "Back in the school. I'm bringing out a big guns," he said in smug voice. "Big guns?" she questioned. "You'll see. Keep your eyes on the screen." With that the line went silent. She heard May cackling and looked at her quizzically. Girl sent her a Cheshire cat grin and her eyes held spark of mischief. "You're going to love this." Nizu played with his pawns, deep frown marring his features. He was glad that crises were averted, but he was still worried. By all logic, young Hatsum won her fight against young Todoroki. She utterly dominated it with that sound device. It was awfully loud, but it worked splendidly. He was concerned as to why young Todoroki tried to skewer the girl, but time for questions will come later. The outcome. Nizu didn't like it. From the looks of it, boy's quirk went haywire or he just panicked. Nonetheless, it almost caused the tragedy. Nizu could only imagine how terrified the girl was, after being buried alive under a glacier. Thankfully young Midoriya, Shinso and Yaoyorozu came with a rescue and got her out. He was interested in that powerful beam his business partner used to carve his way through, but again, question for another time. Recovery girl informed him that young Hatsum's life wasn't in danger, which lifted a weight out of his shoulders. Everything seemed to go okay from that point. That was until last fight. He was impressed with young Yaoyorozu's strategy. Covering young Bakugo with that white substance completely shut down boy's quirk and gave her tremendous advantage. Girl's fighting skills also improved, no doubt thanks to those training sessions with young Midoriya. But young Bakugo was relentless, attacking with enormous ferocity. It was a shame that finally he overpowered young Yaoyorozu. What worried him was that the boy didn't stop punching her even after he was declared a winner. If it wasn't for Midnight and Cementos, would he continue? Nizu didn't want to know the answer. Teen final words worried him greatly. Honestly, at this point he really considered expulsion. However, the face of other troubled teen showed in front of his eyes. No. He wouldn't do it, at least not yet. He believed that he could help young Bakugo. Right after the sports festival, Nizu would start his private investigation. He felt like they should disqualify the teen, but young Yaoyorozu wasn't in shape to fight. Besides, they already had students, who took it even further. Endeavor being prime example. "Welcome back after the break," Yamada yelled into the microphone. "Before we move into the semifinals, let's hear the opinion about matchups. Eraserhead, what are your thoughts?" Aizawa neared his mic and turned it on. "Both seem pretty straightforward. Todoroki and Bakugo are powerhouses and getting through them is really hard. But I would cross out Midoriya and Ishido yet. They can prove to be quite a challenge," he said in his usual tired voice. "Principal, what's your input on the matter?" Mike asked with his typical excitement. Nizu cleared his throat and grabbed his microphone. "I agree with our co-commentator. Young Todoroki and Bakugo are very strong, but we cannot outright say that the matches are over before they even began. Everything can happen. Especially with young Midoriya out there. Yeah, Genius Boy is still a mystery to us. Honestly, I think it's the first time that support student came so far," Yamada said while nodding to himself. "Now, without further delay, let's start semifinals. The first to arrive is the kid, who can bring back the Ice Age. He was a bit cold lately, so give him a warm welcome. From 1A, the Ice King, Shoto Todoroki." Mike called and Teen walked out into the arena. Before Yamada could continue, an electric guitar sounded through the stadium, soon to be followed by drums. On their laptop was a message from Alan: "I'm borrowing the speakers. I don't know who turned on the music, but it is good. With that, let us welcome the boy who can give you a headache with the lecture about the physics without even trying. Our favorite inventor from Class 1H, Izuku Midoriya." Young Midoriya didn't walk out from his passage. Instead, the image on the big screen changed. It showed the fast approaching stadium from top perspective. Nizu grabbed his binoculars and looked through them. He saw it. The shining green-silver armor nose diving towards the arena at high speed. When young Midoriya got closer, he did a flip and used his repulsors to slow down his descent. He landed on his knee and slowly rose up, giving them good look at his suit. It was similar to mrkage, but a bit more streamlined here and there. On his shoulders were 2 boxes. Nizu had no idea that purpose they served. "Now, that's what you call an entrance," Mike shouted into his mic. It was theoretically ready. Alan finished the diagnostics and debugging. Everything was uploaded and ready to go. Mark II was going to get a baptism of fire. And he was fine with it. He needed to show that his inventions were on par with overpowered and glorified quirks, if not better than them. He couldn't allow Mei's hard work with making his grand entrance go to waste. She spent too much time working on it to be simply thrown away because he was pissed. Correction. He wasn't pissed. He was furious. The humongous wrath filled him. Normally he would be disgusted with himself. That wasn't what a future hero was supposed to feel. But honestly, Izuku didn't care. He was angry and wanted to vent his frustration. Both Todoroki and Bakugo hurt important people to him and didn't show any kind of remorse for it. Well, if they couldn't be remorseful on their own, then he would beat it into them. Music started playing in his earpiece and he cracked a smile. It was good that he left Alan in charge of it. He loved this piece. Besides, it would make his entrance even better. Dropping down from almost 25 kilometers wasn't something the sane person would do, to just make a show. But Mei wasn't sane. And it rubbed on him a bit. Crowd was silent. Midnight was looking at him with astonishment and Todoroki was surprised. That wasn't what he expected. Now that's what you call an entrance. There it was, the crowd going absolutely nuts, destroying their throats by screaming their cheers at him. That's more like it. Are you ready? Midnight asked. They both nodded. Begin. Right on the cue, Todoroki unleashed the wave of ice at him. Honestly, how much more predictable and monotonous one could be. All better for him. He lifted his hands and fired double blast, one at the concrete, other at his opponent. Floor was destroyed, stopping the advance of ice. As for the teen, he was hit right on his chest and pushed backwards. His saving grace from losing was making the wall of ice. Todoroki stood up and looked at him with annoyance. Bold of him to do that. Okay, next trick. Izuku called, tapping his foot. I've seen this one many times now. Show us something new. He tried to sound like owner talking to his dog. His answer was another wave of ice, but this time bigger. Tensing his shoulders and arms, he pushed his chest forward, releasing the energy beam, which was bigger than mrkage could make. It melted the ice instantly and ended hitting the wall of stadium. Good chunk of it was destroyed. Todoroki tried to hide his bewilderment, but seeing as the beam shoot right next to his face, he had every right to fail at it. You know, your fights are boring. Izuku said in deadpan voice. All you do is send waves of ice until your opponent turns into icicle. What is your point? Teen asked him with low growl. My point? That you're too easy to beat, he replied, rising into the air. Here's something special for you. You seemed to enjoy it in last round. Front cover of boxes opened, showing everyone the speakers. Todoroki scowled and tried to send a glacier at him, but PM 2.0 destroyed it immediately. Teen screamed in pain and went to his knees. Izuku lowered an output a bit, but kept it coming. You see? Without your ice you can't do a thing. Izuku taunted him, hovering near him. If your right side doesn't work, how about your left? Todoroki tilted his head towards him and looked at him with anger. He tried to produce the ice, but it cracked as soon as it was made. Izuku turned off the sound rifles, but kept himself in the air. So? Either you drop out or try with your fire. Both are fine with me. His voice was the one of absolute indifference. I won't use it. Todoroki groaned out. You won't? Okay fine. You want me to give you the mic, so you can say whole world, that Shoto Todoroki will not use all of his quirk to protect the people as a hero? I'm sure they will be overjoyed with it. He laced his voice in fake excitement. Shut up, Teen screamed, standing up on his shaky legs. He swayed to the sides. You know nothing about me. Izuku huffed. Yeah, I don't. But just from watching you today I know that you're just like your father. Endeavor must be proud of you, he didn't try to hide his anger. I'm nothing like him. Todoroki shouted, unleashing another mass of ice. Izuku rose higher and started shooting at his opponent with hand repulsors. Teen tried to save himself by making the ice dome, but soon it was blasted into bits. Zooming in, he saw a frost covering most of the right side of Todoroki's body. You're getting frostbites. And you're shivering. You see now, they only need to endure you, until you make yourself unable to continue. Izuku commented, snarling lightly. He dropped down on the field and walked towards Todoroki. Another wave of ice rushed at him and covered his legs. Izuku shook his head and simply broke from his restraints, thanks to the suit power capabilities. Compared to the beginning of the fight, this ice was weak. He hit Todoroki straight in the face, enjoying his pained groan. Grabbing him by left arm, Izuku threw the teen like a rag doll to the opposite side of the ring. Boy rolled on the ground, stopping few meters shy from the bounds. You've said you're nothing like Endeavor, he said, walking closer. But all I see is an arsehole with powerful quirk, who doesn't care what's going to happen to anyone around him. Izuku opened his faceplate and looked at Todoroki with anger and disgust. I hate people like you. You don't know what he did to me, Teen said, trying to stand up. I don't. And I don't give a shit for your tragic backstory. You could have killed the person, who is very important to me, he stated, shooting blast at his opponent back, which downed him yet again. And what was that earlier? You can't use your fire? Well, newsflash, idiot. It's part of your power. Honestly, you have a chance to become a great hero, but please by all means, continue to hold back due to your petty reasons. I'm sure that families of people, who you don't save, will congratulate you, he brought out his most sarcastic tone. And all because of what? Shitty childhood? Daddy issues? Izuku shook his head. Grow up, kid. Todoroki kept gazing at him with broken expression. Was truth that hard to swallow? No matter. It wasn't his problem to deal with it. He just wanted to blow out some steam. And if his preaching did some good, then all the better. If not? Well, happens. Scram. I've got another douchebag to teach a lesson. Izuku used simple repulsor blast to throw Todoroki out of the bonds. He ignored crowd clapping, midnight calling him a winner or present mixed commentary. Turning around he searched for flaming trash can. There he was, looking at him with pissed expression. And above him, from 1A's booth, stood Bakugo, popping explosions on his hand, sending him annoyed look. That made him smirk. Alan, give me the stadium speakers for a moment. You're going to do something utterly stupid, sir. AI stated in deadpan voice, but gave him control nonetheless. How was that for a toy, he called, surprising people. That TOY just kicked your brat's arse into the next week. And you want him to exceed All Might? Don't make me laugh. Looks like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Both of you are incapable of solving situations that can't be handled by brute force. He was about to end, but a thought struck him. One that would devastate Endeavor ego even more. Closing his helmet, he added. Oh, and for the record. I'm quercus. The eerie silence filled the stadium. It was very suiting in his opinion. Turning away, he walked into the tunnel and trekked into the infirmary. Okay, maybe it was a bit too much. Did he just declare a war on number 2 hero? Yes he did. Endeavor was known for his wealth and political influence. Semi-direct one. You couldn't badmouth him or his agency, because you would get a case in the court. Every newspaper that tried to say something that showed Hiro in a bad light was immediately closed. Many blogs and sites that were dedicated to him and his work were erased. Basically he just picked a fight with the worst possible enemy. Well, another mountain to climb over. He entered the infirmary and saw his girlfriend and friends look at him with mix of joy and disbelief. Opening his faceplate he smiled nervously at them. Egois. That was so badass. Mei shouted, jumping up and down, grinning widely. It was brutal. But I think that Todoroki deserved that. Momo agreed reluctantly. She smiled a bit at him. Shinso-kun just looked straight into his eyes. Remind me to not get on your bad side. Like ever. He chuckled at that. Taking off his helmet, he stepped closer and leaned against the wall. He was glad that they enjoyed the show he put out. Izuku. Momo said, gaining his attention. Tell me, do you have another grand entrance for a final fight? She was really curious. Not really, he admitted. Shame. It was really epic. Shinso-kun commented with a sigh. Well then. Momo started, turning to him with small smirk. How about we make you one? Inko sat comfortably on the couch. She was at the Bakugo's residence, waiting for sports festival to begin to watch her son perform. Normally she would do it at home, but Mitsuki invited her over. She was a bit surprised by that. After college their only contact was during parent-teacher meetings at schools. Nonetheless she accepted. After a mass of commercials and commentary to hype people, the thing finally begun. She watched the class coming in, waiting for her son to appear. Now from the support department. Class 1H, and leading them into the field is no other than a student, who should teach at the university. Trust me when I say, that his nickname, Genius Boy, is well deserved. There was her adorable son, singled out and embarrassed in front of the whole world. She couldn't help but laugh at the silly, but suiting nickname. Izuku is already famous there? Masaru asked in awe. Wow, you're lucky Inko. Mitsuki said, grinning at her. She just politely nodded at them. Then came Katsuki's athlete oath. She blinked, absolutely not understanding why Mitsuki laughed at it and cheered. Masaru just shook his head. Seems like Katsuki was still loud and throwing challenges left and right, but did he have to be so disrespectful? Obstacle race begun and here they are. Inko looked at screen with great interest, when camera showed her baby boy along with two girls. Izuku told her about his female friends. She vaguely recognized Momo, from her visits in the comic book shop. Those girls were really pretty. Scratch that. They were beautiful. Almost every day Izuku told her about something they did together and such. She really hoped that one of them would catch her son's eye. She wanted grandbabies in the future. Do you see it, people? I don't know how that happened, but let me say you this. Only Genius Boy could do something like that. She snapped out of her fantasy. Why her baby boy was riding on that monstrosity. And why her potential daughters-in-law were doing it with him. But they looked like they had fun. She will let it slide just this once. Oh wow. Your son have some balls to do that, Inko. Mitsuki shouted in excitement. Yes, he does, she simply answered. Camera showed the last obstacle, the minefield. She had mixed feeling about it. Go get him, brat. Take that first place. Mitsuki shouted, when Katsuki was showed on the screen. He was fighting with a boy that had some kind of ice quirk. Then explosion happened and pink smoke filled the field. She wondered what could happen, and just like that the feed showed her Izuku with outstretched hand and still glowing repulsor. She remembered, when her son told her about his success in making arc reactor and Iron Man suit. She was so overjoyed. Her baby boy's dream was closer than ever. She remembered the long hours Izuku spent reading about machinery, electricity, studying periodic table, filling out his notebooks with ideas and theories. It all paid off. She was really proud of her son. Damn it. Mitsuki screamed in anger, when Katsuki was declared second, making her and Masaru cringe at the volume of her voice. She was glad when her son came back on the stadium, sharing the place with his friends. The suggestion of them being a power team really pleased her. Huh, would you look at that? Little Izuku is surrounding himself with girls. Who would have known? Mitsuki said in her teasing voice. You're so lucky, Inko, you at least have a chance to be a grandma. Not like me with that brat of mine. She chuckled slightly. I hope so. Izuku told me about those two young ladies. They're close friends. That's good. I remember Izuku being a loner in middle school. Maybe even before that. Masaru commented, smiling softly at her. Cavalry battle started and there was her son with his female friends and unfamiliar boy. Most of the event focused on Team Todoroki and them defending their 10 million, but from time to time she saw Izuku and his team running around the field and snatching points from unsuspecting squads. When scoreboard showed up, she was glad to see them placed fourth. It meant they would pass to the next event. But she could help but cringe a little at the brutality Katsuki displayed. Mitsuki was really enjoying it, but Masaru had a little frown. At least he wasn't blind to his son's violent behavior. What's going on? Smoke filled the area. You can't see a thing. The top-down perspective was shown and most of the field was covered in thick, black gas. Soon Izuku's teammates launched into the skies, but her baby boy was nowhere to be seen. After few more seconds of wait, her son shot up and stopped near his squad. Mei took something from him and they all cheered. Look at that, people. With only a 20 seconds left, Team Hatsum takes 10 million points for themselves, gaining indisputable first place. That's what you call a twist. Her baby boy swooped first place. She was glad for him and his team. Then Katsuki launched himself up, straight at her son. But Izuku just blasted him of the skies. Something was wrong. Her mother instincts were tingling. Her baby boy could easily dodge it, but he chose to shot another person. From that height Katsuki could be easily harmed. Maybe even killed. Damn it, second again. Mitsuki huffed. Congratulations, Inko. Masaru told her, smiling a bit. Thank you. I'm sure Izuku and his team are also overjoyed, she replied, smiling back. As if on cue, her baby boy was shown, hugging with girls, soon to be joined by their other teammate. Her son was close to those girls. Like really close. Her chances of being a grandma skyrocketed. Now is the tournament, right? Masaru asked in wonder. Yes. It's always on the third event. Inko informed, nodding slowly. Finally. Some good ass kicking and going to happen. Mitsuki cheered, visibly pumped up. Before the tournament begun, there was a special commercial, showing Big Arc Reactor. It looked similar to the one in the Iron Man movie from pre-Quark era. The one who developed this device is none other than our first-year student, Izuku Midoriya. With his consent, school built the bigger version, that powers our facilities. All the access energy is sold to the city grid. I'm not allowed to disclose the information about its performance, but let me to tell you this. Arc Reactor is giving power to the bigger part of our region. Device is completely eco-friendly. Its energy is clean, produced by a cold fusion reaction, the principal said, during the video. She heard choking noises. Looking at her friend, she witnessed them with their jaws slack open. Her heart swelled in pride. Inko, is it true? Masaru asked in weak voice. Yes. Izuku dedicated most of his life to make this possible, she informed. Holy crap. I knew he was smart, but damn. Mitsuki said in awe. Does he get something from it? Yes, but I don't know the exact number. Lie. She knew very well. His account was supervised by her. Her son earned many times more money in a week than she did during whole year. And her job was good. Her baby boy was first, fighting against the boy from his team. His introduction made her chuckle a bit. She knew Izuku could easily blast the teen away, but they fought in all-fashioned way. Would you look at that? Genius boy not only knows how to build. His fighting skill are also one to be admired. I didn't know that Izuku knows how to fight. His moves are very good. Masaru commented in slight awe. Izuku has green belt in Oyama karate, she answered proudly. Her baby boy was able to handle himself. Mitsuki snorted with laughter. Green? Does he have some kind of fetish for this color? Not really. Only his room and accessories are green, she replied, making them all laugh. Her baby boy won. She hoped that he would bring out his suit soon. She wanted to finally see it. She enjoyed Mei's fight. Girl was clever and knew what to do to keep herself safe. Izuku extolled her many times, mostly girls' intellect and building skills. She had a good laugh when he told her about their babies. They all gaped at the huge glacier that Todoroki made. Inko hoped that her son would have to go against him. Katsuki's match was too violent for her. She was reminded of those angry dogs that wanted to attack you for no reason at all. She peeked at her friends. Masaru was rooting silently, but he had a small frown marring his features. Mitsuki cheered loudly, screaming at her son to blast that kid away. And that he did. She was worried slightly for the boy's safety, seeing him stuck into the wall. She was impressed with Momo's fighting skills and quick thinking. Izuku told her that he was helping her to learn how to fight better. Girl knew how to handle herself. Second round rolled in after a break. And there he was. Oh, it was so similar to movie version of Mark II. She hoped that it functioned good. It had to be. Otherwise Izuku wouldn't be so proud of it. That's Izuku? Mitsuki shouted, completely astonished. Inko just nodded happily. She wished that Stan could see it, they owed him so much. The match was short and she couldn't help but compare it to the scene from the first Avengers movie. It was exactly like that. A lighting hitting her son, him just shrugging it off and blasting his opponent away. She briefly wondered if the power reading was the same. Once again she was impressed with Mei and her abilities. The girl navigated in the air with a strange grace, dodging the ice pillars popping out from the ground. But then she feared for her potential daughter-in-law's health. Why did that boy try to skewer her? Didn't he know that it could kill her? Fortunately Mei raised up and used that strange device on her arm. They only heard a bit, before it was muted, but it was so loud. She pitted people on the stadium. She was so sure of the girl's victory. She played this perfectly, and when she shot Todoroki with her stun gun, She thought that the match was over. But then the massive amount of ice rushed at Mei and buried her. She gasped, terrified for the girl's life. Fortunately her son and his friends rushed to her rescue, digging her out and taking away, most likely to the infirmary. She released the breath she was holding, but still wished that Mei was all right. But something didn't sit right with her. There was so many heroes there, even Endeavor was present. And none of them moved an inch to help. She questioned their behavior. Next match was normal and without any kind of moment that made her fear for participants' life. She was glad that the girl from 1B didn't suffer due to acid. Her hair, despite being vines, were really beautiful in their strange way. Last match of the second round. Momo vs Katsuki. She silently wished for her potential daughter-in-law to win this. Come on brat. Just blast her away. Mitsuki screamed, annoyed, that her son's opponent was winning it. Maybe that white stuff is messing with his quirk. Masaru suggested, stroking his chin. Inko cheered for Momo. Girl really gave her all. Maybe she could get to the finals? She wondered how her baby boy would fight his friend. But then the tables turned around. All because Katsuki managed to grab Momo, swaying the fight in his favor. She cringed at how rough and violent he was. Shouldn't he be disqualified? He continued to hit the girl even after being called a winner. Poor Momo, her face was all bloody and swollen. She hoped that recovery girl would be able to heal her. He took it too far. Masaru said, looking displeased with what they've just watched. Huh? But he won. It's all that matters. Mitsuki replied, gazing at her husband weirdly. Inko scowled a bit. She hadn't seen Katsuki in quite a while, but watching him today, she couldn't help but question his behavior. She had hard time describing it. But she was sure of one thing. He didn't behave like heroes should. Izuku was fighting against Todoroki. She feared a bit for her baby boy, but believed he could win. Her phone pinged. She looked at it and saw a message from Alan. It read, "Enjoy the grand entrance." The music started playing and she immediately begun tapping her foot and bobbing her head. She loved this piece. Inko, you know the song? Masaru asked intrigued. Yes. It's from the old, pre-quark band called AC/DC. Me and Izuku really like this one. Then her son came from the skies, made a flip and did a superhero landing, posing similar to the Iron Man. He had another armor ready? It gave the movie's Mark III vibe. Inko pouted a bit, seeing that suit wasn't the red gold, but she understood that Izuku wanted to make his own image. She wondered a bit about the boxes on his shoulder. Match begun and Izuku dominated it. But something was off. Her baby boy was too violent. He could end it quickly, but it seemed like he was dragging it on purpose. Was he mad at the boy for what he did to Mei? Judging from Todoroki, it looked like they talked about something, but she had no clue what the conversation involved. After winning, Izuku looked somewhere and his voice carried through the stadium. How was that for a toy? That TOY just kicked your brat's arse into the next week. And you want him to exceed All Might? Don't make me laugh. Looks like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Both of you are incapable of solving situations that can't be handled by brute force. Oh, and for the record, I'm quirkless. Her jaw went slack. During his monologue the camera changed, showing them annoyed Endeavor. Why did Izuku did it? It was so unlike him, especially that rude language. Her baby boy picked a fight with number 2 hero. She didn't know what to think of it. Mitsuki howled a laugh. Your son have some balls there, Inko. Who would have thought that quiet Izuku would declare a war on Endeavor? She didn't feel like laughing. Katsuki's fight against Ishido was a quick one. He just rushed at her, not afraid of girl's acid, and set up a powerful explosion, throwing the girl out of the ring. Looks like our boys are going to face each other. Masaru stated, folding his hands on his lap. Yeah. Mitsuki turned to her. Hope Izuku wouldn't be too mad for getting a second place, she grinned teasingly at her. I doubt it, she replied politely. But I'm more worried about Katsuki. When he brings home a silver medal, she smirked a tiny bit. The bet was made. And it involved good money. Normally Inko wouldn't do such a thing, as betting on her son doing something, but it was her baby boy. She was a good mother and believed in him. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the final round. Hold tight in your sits, because those two could blow you away. From 1A, the boy that literally blasted his way through the whole thing. Katsuki Bakugo. And now his opponent. The roof of the stadium begun to close and 2 reflector lights pointed at the passage for her son. Massive amount of smoke was spewing out of it. The music played again, but this one was heavier. It was Iron Man by Black Sabbath. With first chord of a guitar, 2 green lights shone inside the fume. When the first lyrics came, Izuku walked out slowly, his armor shining. The boxes were gone. Damn. That kid knows how to make an entrance. He looks like the final boss. Dear listeners, I have nothing left to say, except that Izuku Midoriya from 1H is here, ready to rock. He really needed to thank Momo for her idea. And Shinso-kun, his input with suggesting the smoke really made the whole thing better. The crowd was excited and Pomeranian was pissed beyond his usual scale. He grinned at that. Yeah, sure, he got more attention than he wanted, but he guessed he would need to get comfortable with it when he'll finally become a hero. He opened his face mask and smirked at Firecracker. It only annoyed Blonde more. What's up, Boom Boom Boy? Boy gritted his teeth and his features become more animalistic than ever. You fucking enjoy this, Deku? Just wait till I blast that smirk out of your fucking face. Oh no. I'm so scared. Big bad Pomeranian is going to bark at me. Izuku mocked him in fake fearful voice. Someone should get you a leash and take you to vet to see if you have rabies. His smirk stretched further. He heard Midnight laugh at his comment. Shut up or I'll kill you. Firecracker shouted. Just like you tried to do that with Momo twice, he said, snarling at Blonde. There was no reaction from Bakugo. I'd like to see you try. Izuku growled out those words and snapped back his faceplate. The fight begun and Pomeranian shoot straight at Izuku with his explosions. He waited till Blonde was close and attacked with a vicious right swing. Dodging under it, he grabbed the arm and swung Bakugo over his shoulder, making Firecracker hit the concrete painfully. Using his free hand, Blonde set up an explosion right into Suit's chest piece. His sneer turned into the look of surprise when Armored Teen didn't waver. Instead, Izuku threw Bakugo into the air and hit him with a repulsor blast, further pushing him up. Flying up, he quickly caught up to the Pomeranian and delivered strong haymaker right on into Firecracker's face, sending Blonde down, to crash on the floor. On the last second, Bakugo used his quirk to slow down enough to land on his feet. He spat out the blood and growled, scowl marring his features. Had enough? Izuku asked, hovering in the air. You think that having a fancy armor means something? Pomeranian screamed, throwing his hands to the sides. I will blast it to bits. Then those 2 bitches will see just how pathetic, shitty nerd you are, Deku. Firecracker jumped out and used his quirk to steer towards Izuku, but he just blasted him off the skies with powerful repulsor blast. Blonde rolled on the ground and groaned in pain. You really think that Mei and Momo are that shallow to only befriend me, because I have a multibillion, high-tech suit? Izuku let out a short, unamused laugh. They're not like all those people sucking up to you all the time, he sneered. Yeah, sure. Those 2 sluts like you for being yourself. Get fucking real, Deku. No one would ever like a quirkless fuck. Bitches are just fucking with you. Bakugo screamed, standing up, his jacket's front in shreds. Get out of that toy, so I can make you remember your place. Did he just? Yes, he did. Okay, he planned to go easy on Blonde Menace. Play with him a bit and then just throw him off to humble him. Of course, rough him up a bit for almost killing Momo twice now. But Pomeranian just crossed a line. No more Mr. Nice Guy. Bakugo was leaving this place on a stretcher. He landed on the ground and started walking towards the Firecracker. Blonde ran at him, aiming with a hook on the helmet, but the attack was caught effortlessly. Izuku gripped hard on the wrist, making Bakugo hiss. Another hit, this time the uppercut, was grabbed in similar hold. Pomeranian tried to use his quirk, but Izuku just steered the hands up and away from his body. Deploy cuffs, he ordered. The shoulder pieces of his armor opened and 2 bulky, metal rings shoot out from them, latching onto Firecracker's wrist. Then they expanded, covering the hands completely in a dome. Using a low-powered blast from chest piece, he sent Bakugo away, making him land on his butt. The fuck are those? He questioned, before using his quirk. Then a blood-curdling scream filled the stadium. Pomeranian trashed on the ground, shouting curses left and right, tears poured from his eyes. Black smoke rose from the cuffs. That view shouldn't bring him so much joy. But it did. A huge grin found his way onto Izuku's face. Clapping slowly, he walked forward. Congratulations, Bakugo. You've just gave yourself at least a 2nd-degree burns and maybe even busted some bones. He stopped a few steps from the blonde. I've developed those cuffs for people whose quirks are based around their hands. Just like yours, he enjoyed the look of pure hate he got from Pomeranian. So in other words? You're quirkless now. He ran up to Firecracker and kicked him in the ribs, sending a good distance away. He was sure that some of them cracked. Bakugo stood up on wobbly legs. Letting out a roar, he charged at Izuku. Armored Teen met him in the middle. Dodging a straight punch, he jabbed Pomeranian on the face, then delivered an uppercut into his chin. Grabbing the blonde by shoulders, Izuku hit him with his knee on the stomach. Firecracker bended, coughing up a blood. A powerful, right hook sent blonde sprawling on the floor. Bakugo took a painful breath and rolled onto his chest. Placing his arms on the sides, he began to rise up. Izuku placed his hand on Pomeranian's back, stopping his movement. Here's something that you may remember. Repulsor in the glove whined softly. Stay down, he hissed out. Blast shout out, downing Firecracker yet again. Blonde howled in pain. A perfect circle smoldered right between his shoulder blades. That's it. Katsuki Bakugo is unable to continue. Izuku Midoriya is a winner. Midnight called out. The crowd clapped and cheered. Present Mike rumbled some kind of commentary and fireworks shoot into the skies. But for Izuku it meant nothing. Crouching next to the Bakugo's face, he opened his faceplate and looked straight into his eyes. Try calling any of my important people names again and I'll make sure that you stay quirkless forever, he said in grave tone. And for the notice. For me, you're never going to be a hero. People like you are villains. Snapping his mask back, he stood up and walked away into the passage. There, waiting for him were his friends. But none were smiling or cheering. Everyone wore somber expression. They heard everything, due to earpieces they had. Taking off his helmet, he allowed girls to hug him tightly. Izuku released a long sigh and buried his head in Momo's shoulder. How is a guy like him in the hero course? Shinso-kun asked angrily. Leaving the comfort of the group hug, he gazed at his precious people with sadness. Because that's what most of our society wants. Heroes with flashy, powerful quirks. It doesn't matter if they are arseholes. As long as they have power, they're extolled. People with weak or villainous quirks are being told to give up by everyone. And quirkless, he let out a bitter laugh. If homicide was legal, I'm sure they'd get rid of us. Izuku blinked, his words catching up to him. Sorry. No. Momo said, looking at the ground. You're right. I had moments in my life when I had thoughts like that. That one of the important things to a hero is having a good quirk. But, she gazed at him with regret. But being around you and May, I understood that what hero needs lies in different directions. Izuku smiled softly at those words. He felt proud that his actions lead to someone's realization about their corrupted world. Good for you, Yaoyorozu. You'll make a fine hero. Shinso-kun said, smiling kindly. She beamed up at his words. Thank you, Shinso-san. So will you. Teen scowled and looked away. His eyes narrowed. Doubt it. My transfer to hero course isn't likely to happen. I won't be a hero, he told them bitterly. Then let us help you. Mei shouted, jumping next to the boy. What? Shinso-kun asked. He was utterly perplexed. You heard me. We'll help you become a hero. Girl explained, grinning like a maniac. Izuku saw Momo nod and smile brightly at their friend. He followed her example. Yeah, we'll help you become a hero. That's what friends do. Friends. Shinso-kun whispered, a ghost of a smile gracing his lips. I'd like that. Thank you for tagging along with me, Tsukachi-san. Nizu said, to the man. No problem. You said it was important. Detective replied with small smile. It was a Monday, new week just after the sports festival. The two of them were on their way towards the Aldera Junior High. Nizu wanted to do the solid background check on young Bakugo. Normally he would start with family, but he could get in contact with boys' parents. Maybe it was better this way, sometimes children could behave differently at home and away from it. The things he heard and saw his student do didn't sit well with him. He thought about asking young Midoriya for his opinion, but decided against it for now. Boys' input would be taken last, to avoid taking sides, even subconsciously. He asked Detective to come with him just for insurance. While Nizu could tell when someone was lying or hiding information, Man was pretty diligent in his work and had good senses, so he may pick up something that he would miss. Knocking on the door and getting the invitation to the inside, they moved into the principal's crumped office. Man himself was middle-aged, bald and overweight with hideous sense of style. How could on wore yellow tie to the light blue suit, was beyond Nizu. Yes, how can I help you? Principal asked, stiffing a yawn. Hello, sir. I'm Nizu, principal of UA High School. And this is my colleague, Naomasa Tsukachi, he said, sitting down on the chair. Oh, welcome. What can I do for you? Man's face adopted the huge smile. We're here to ask a few questions about your previous student. Tsukachi-san stated, pulling out his notepad and pen. What can you tell us about Katsuki Bakugo? Nizu questioned, fondling his paws nicely on his lap. Principal's smile strained slightly and his eyes squinted. Giving them awkward chuckle, he said. He's very good and talented student. His drive for heroics was well known around the school. That's great to hear. But what about his behavior? Was he, I don't know, aggressive towards others? Nizu pushed forward. Principal scratched his temple and looked away from them for a moment. No, I've never had any complaint about him. He was competitive, but he never crossed a line. Tsukachi-san gazed at the man from his notepad. What about cursing? Threatening students? Or using his quirk in public? He asked in curious tone. Principal shook his head. Such things were never reported to me. I see. Thank you for your time. Would it be a problem if me and my friend would go around the school and talk to teachers and maybe some students? Nizu questioned with polite smile. Not at all. Came quick reply. Man was sweating pretty heavily. Oh, just one more question. How was Izuku Midoriya here as a student? Nizu said curiously. Who? Principal looked at them with lost expression. After leaving the office, they went to teacher's room and asked similar questions to the employees there. During break they caught some third years and repeated the process. Every teacher said that Katsuki Bakugo was an excellent student with magnificent quirk. They praised him through the roof and never said a bad word about the teen. For students, they admitted that young Bakugo was kind of a jerk and swore constantly. Some of them were beaten up by him or got caught in his explosions. He was the biggest bully in the school and no one could oppose to him. None of them particularly liked the boy. But every time, when Nizu asked about young Midoriya, answers ranged from a surprise that he was a student here, to snicker about how Bakugo from time to time showed quirkless nerd where he belonged. When they left and got into the car, Nizu had a huge frown marring his features. He didn't suspect for things to look so grim. Well, at least kids aren't lying about how things were, Tsukachi-san said with heavy sigh. That seems to be the case. Nizu nodded slowly. Do you think they were lying about young Bakugo in order to not destroy his chances at becoming a hero? Most likely. Detective admitted bitterly. Do you want me to open a case? Nizu blinked and begun playing with his paws. Would they need a case to deal with young Bakugo and his personality? He hoped no. He really hoped no. But his gut told him that it may come in handy. For now we're only gathering the evidences. At best we may use it to punish the school and its staff for the malversation. At worst, we're going to mess up a young man's future. He stated somberly. Your call, Nizu-san. But what truly leaves me bewilderment is that almost nobody seems to recognize Midoriya-kun. I was blown away by his performance during festival. Tsukachi-san told him, amazement lacing his voice. Nizu chuckled at Detective's reaction. Trust me, you weren't the only one. But yes, it worries me that at best they remember him as some sort of doormat. He's not having any trouble in school, right? Tsukachi asked with concern. No, not at all. He's doing fantastic, he said, with huge grin. I can't wait till he turns his dream into a reality. His dream? Came question with clear interest. Not saying now. But if everything goes right, big changes will arrive. Nizu said almost wishfully. Momo looked at the screen, which showed the number of offers for them. She had to admit, pros worked fast. To analyze and decide which one of them were interesting enough and had skills to intern with them was nothing short of amazing. While her 472 proposals pleased her, it was nowhere near close to Todoroki's 5,000 or Pomeranian's 3,500. She peeked at the teen with dual-colored hair. All day long he seemed to be in deep thoughts and from time to time he looked at his left hand with strange expression. Momo was still angry at him for what he did during festival, but she decided to let him be. Looking at Bakugo, she immediately glanced at his hands. Recovery Girl truly was miraculous maker, but even with her quirk and knowledge she couldn't save his palms from scars. Some were small, but others marred the whole patches of skin. His fingers were a bit crooked. In her mid, it served him right. Going back to checking her papers with offers, she wondered if she should ask Izuku for an advice. He possessed extreme knowledge about heroes and could easily tell her who was the best to intern with. On one hand she had no doubt that he would help her and do it quickly, giving her this wonderful smile of his. But on the other hand, she didn't want to be dependent on him. This was her decision to make and her internship. It was her time to make important choices that would shape her future and allow her to be the best hero she can be. But asking Izuku to check her list of potential offers wouldn't hurt, right? Bell rung and everyone began to pack their things. Sorting her stack of papers, she remembered something that Izuku asked her to do. Looking around her classroom, she spotted a person she needed. Ida-san. Could you wait a moment? She called the teen. Boy turned to her with his usual serious expression. His posture was stiff, more than normally, but seeing at what had happened to his brother, she understood that it was a difficult time for him. Yes, Yaoyorozu-san? How may I help you? He tried to sound as polite as he could. Can you go with me to the support department building? She asked, offering a small smile. What for? Teen questioned in a slight surprise. Izuku said that he has something for you. It sounded rather important, so he asked me to bring you along, she answered truthfully. Ida tensed a bit. He looked torn between something. Of course, but only for a little. Their trek went in complete silence, but not the comfortable one. Momo peeked at him from time to time, only to find her classmate in deep thoughts. She heard a few times how others asked about his brother, but answers were always short and didn't give much insight. There was also something in his eyes, but she couldn't place her finger on what it was. However, the vibe it gave her wasn't exactly pleasant. Arriving at the baby-making duo workshop, she was surprised to see Principal here. He and Izuku were talking about something in the hushed tone, but once they arrived, the conversation ended. Mei was tinkering with something, but she still flashed a grin at her and waved. Ah, good afternoon to you, my wonderful students. Nizu-san said to them in his usual cheerful tone. Good afternoon, Principal. Ida-san bowed deeply, then turned towards Izuku. I've heard you needed my presence here, Midoriya-san. Green Inventor nodded and with genial expression, he walked a bit closer. I did, Ida-san. I'll cut a chase and ask you something very important. How is your brother? He said. And please, don't lie to me, he added before answer came. Teen's eyes narrowed and his fist clenched tightly. Why do you wish to know it? It came out a bit rude, which surprised her greatly. Depending on your answer, I may be able to help him. Her friend replied in calmly manner. Momo saw a great shock crossing her classmate features. Ida-san looked at the floor and frowned deeply. After a few moments of silence, he gazed at them again. He's stable now, but... He swallowed hard. Hero Killer damaged his spine, making him paralyzed from the waist down. There's no chance for recovery, Teen admitted bitterly, tears gathering in the corner of his eyes. Momo tried not to gasp. This was horrible. She read articles about the Ingenium and seen videos of his work. She thought highly of him, he seemed to be a really pleasant and hard-working hero. Furthermore, from Uraraka-chan she heard that for Ida-san his brother was just like All Might for society. A pillar of heroics. She couldn't even imagine what her classmate felt. I see. Allow me to offer my sincere condolences. Izuku said, bowing slightly. I don't want to get your hopes high, but I may be able to help your brother walk again, he smiled politely. You can? Ida-san exclaimed loudly, voicing her thoughts. It's possible. Me and Mei can create a prosthesis of sort that would allow your brother to move again. But to do that we would need to have access to his medical record and take measurements. Izuku explained. I'll see what I can do. Thank you, Midoriya-san. Ida-san bowed deeply, showing his gratitude. He sounded overjoyed. After her classmate left, her friend and principal returned to their conversation. Not wanting to eavesdrop, she moved to Mei, who was tinkering with the cuffs. Did you know about it? Momo asked curiously. Izuku mentioned something about it during classes, she replied with shrug. I was immediately on board with it. I see, she smiled brightly. Then I must thank you. Ida-san was gloomy all day and barely talked. No sweat. Her friend replied nonchalantly. Oh, by the way, how are your offers for internship? She asked, remembering that support students also had those. She was sure that her friends got a ton of proposals. We're invited to the best support company in Japan. Mei shouted, jumping up and down, catching Momo's palms. They said that our babies were marvelous and want to have us over. That's great. I'm so happy for you, she replied, joining her friend in bouncing around. I know, right? Just think of all those adorable babies that me and Izuku will make there. Her mind came to the abrupt stop. This was usual way of Mei's talking about their work and there was nothing weird about it. Or at least shouldn't be. But out of nowhere there was a strange feeling in her stomach. During last month she saw her friends being close. Closer than best friends were supposed to be. At least she thought that. From time to time she saw them kissing each other on the cheeks or forehead. And every time that happened, she had a strange desire and swirl of emotions hit her. The worst one was, when she thought that she saw them kissing on the lips. She told herself that she must be seeing things, that she was tired after training and her mind was playing her scenes from her romance manga. But the uneasiness in her gut remained and questions kept multiplying in her mind. "Momo, you okay?" Izuku asked, waving in front of her face. When did he came to her? "Yes, I'm good." "Why do you ask?" she asked, completely lost. "You kind of blacked out for a minute." Mei informed her. "You were staring into the space, not even blinking." "Sorry. I had something on my mind." She answered a bit bashfully. "It's all right. Anyway, how are your offers?" Izuku asked in wonder. "Quite good actually. I'm trying to pick the best proposal for me." She told him. "Something caught your eye?" Mei questioned, peeking at her from her work. "There are some, but I think that I'll go with Iwabumi." Momo said, a bit unsure. Izuku hummed and looked at her, tilting his head a bit in cute manner. "Well, that's a good choice." Yes. She knew it. She knew that her friend would agree with her. Iwabumi was pretty high-ranked hero and that no doubt meant she could teach her many valuable things. She was glad that Izuku, who she considered as a hero specialist, approved her choice. "That is, if you want to end up in commercial," he added with deadpan voice, pulling out a very good impression of Aizawa-sensei. Momo blinked at him and he just blinked back. "What? But Iwabumi was? Which one is it?" Mei asked, stopping her tinkering. "The snake lady." Izuku replied quickly. "Oh, her. My mom bought some perfume, because it was advertised by her." Her friend told them happily. "But, she's rank 35. Momo protested in weak voice. Green Inventor snorted with quiet laughter and shook his head. He looked at her with small, amused smile. "Let me guess. She was the highest-ranked hero on your list, right?" She nodded, gazing at the floor. That was the case. She had others candidates, but Iwabumi had the highest rank among them. Izuku sighed. While it's true that she's a great capture specialist, Iwabumi is a hero that mostly makes advertisements for products and attends charity balls. I'm not saying it's a bad choice, but no doubt you're going to spend most of your time in some studio. My bet is that she picked you, because you're beautiful. She snapped her wide eyes at him. His voice was serious and smile he had, was bright. Her face heated up. Izuku, her best friend, thought she was beautiful. It wasn't some cheap comment from the boy that tried to score her on the ball. He was sincere about it. Yeah, Izuku's right. Snake Lady wanted an adorable assistant to the commercial. Mei chippered, grinning at her. Her too. That was a bit too much for her poor heart. If you want, you can give me your list and I'll check for heroes that would help you, he offered kindly. Momo took that offer, wanting to change the direction of their conversation. Their comments made her utterly happy, but for God's sake. Did they had to be so serious about them? It's not like she had doubts in her body. Nature was more than generous in that matter. However, for some reason something squeezed her heart and made her feel joyous, that her friends thought that she was attractive. The sound of muttering pulled her out of her musings. She looked at Izuku, who was tearing through her list in record, whispering to himself, judging pros and cons of given offer. She found herself amazed by this. Sure, she witnessed it, when they were making strategies for sports festival, but still. It sure was a sight to behold. Suddenly he stopped, somewhere past the middle. He glanced at her, then back at the list and again at her. His lips stretched in so familiar sweet, innocent smile and eyes sparkled with mischief. For reasons unknown to her, she felt her primal instinct kick in and scream at her to run away. I believe I found the best offer possible. But I'm not sure if you're going to be happy about it or no, he spoke in clear, cheerful manner, that left her wondering why she was both excited and terrified of her best friend. Nizu sipped his tea slowly, keeping an eye on young Bakugo, who was sitting on the couch. He called Teen for a talk, but since student came, no words were exchanged, not even greetings. He wanted to see how long young Bakugo will remain calm or at least won't start aggressively questioning things. So far barely 4 minutes had passed and signs of aggravation became clearer and clearer. So? What do you want from me? Teen finally asked. Is this a way to address your principal? Nizu questioned with edge in his voice. His face held friendly features, but the dangerous glint in his I just dared student to cross the line. Young Bakugo flinched and looked to the side. His scowl deepened ever so slightly. "No, sir," he said in barely audible voice. "Glad you understand how to show the respect to your superiors." Nizu watched how Teen's hands grabbed tightly his pants for the answer to his wording. "Before we go to the main part of our conversation, allow me to ask you something. Why did you left the stadium, not even receiving your medal?" Boy's eyes snapped to him, his angry, red pupils piercing through his head. "Why would I wait for a trashy decoration? It means nothing, if I'm not the best." Teen shouted loudly. "Please do not raise your voice." Nizu warned and took a sip from a cup. "So that's how you see things? Does gaining first place mean so much to you? I'm the next #1 hero. Of course I need to take the first place." Young Bakugo threw his hands to the side. "And to lose it to the quirkless nerd? I would never stay there and wait for him to rub it into my face." He struck the table with his fist. Nizu chose not to command this outburst. "I'm doubtful that young Midoriya would do such thing. He's a humble young man. While I'm sure he appreciates the title, he's not the one to gloat about it," he said in calm manner. Teen just clicked his tongue and looked away, not wanting to continue the current conversation. "Now, onto the main part," Nizu informed, fondling his paws neatly on his lap. "Me and other teachers heard every word you've said during the tournament," he told student and waited for his reaction. He guessed that looking at him with huge scowl was the best acknowledgement he would get. "And seeing as your sessions with Hound Dog aren't giving any results, you leave me no choice but to give you an ultimatum." Nizu watched the way the boy's body tensed and how the eyes narrowed dangerously. "I've seen that you've decided to intern with Best Jeanist. Very fine choice, if you ask me. I've gotten in touch with him and asked him for a favor." He paused for a moment, gazing right into Teen's eyes. "During your internship you're to continue your therapeutic sessions with Best Jeanist. After that he will send me a report. If there's no sign of betterment of your behavior, you, young Bakugo, will be removed from Hero Course and placed into General Education Department." "What? You can't do that to me!" Student shouted, rising from his seat. His face was one of the outraged animal, ready to kill. Then the explosions begun to pop, filling the room with the smell of burnt caramel. "I can and I'm going to do it," Nizu stated calmly, not intimidated by the boy's outburst. "I could even expel you, if I wanted." That seemed to do a trick and calm Teen a bit. "But I want to help you, young Bakugo. If you truly want to become a hero, then start behaving as one. My school will not produce another endeavor." He took a sip of his tea, emptying the cup. "That's all I wanted to tell you. You're dismissed." Teen stood in the place, seemingly rooted to the it. His shocked face morphed into the usual scowl, before he stomped out of the office, shutting the door with huge force. Nizu sighed heavily and massaged his forehead. In his mind, that went well. Or as well as it could. The idea for ultimatum came from his talk with Aizawa-san, about the boy. The homeroom teacher voiced his worries about young Bakugo and his isolation from the class. Even young Kirishima, who stuck to the teen since USJ, couldn't really talk with boy. It all escalated after the festival. The class somehow caught up to the fact that the beat-down young Bakugo served to young Yaoyorozu could be fatal to her life. Teen himself didn't even try to patch things up. Instead he chose to challenge everyone who dared to comment on it. He just hoped that everything would end up good and young Bakugo would see the errors of his ways. Izuku blinked, looking at the smiling faces of Yagi-san and Principal. When Alan informed him that Nizu wanted for him to swing by, he thought that it was about their project. However, after arriving at the office, to see him in all might in his withered form, he guessed that it was time for his answers regarding Yagi-san's look. So he just sat down and listened. Needlessly to say, that his head had trouble containing all the information. He knew that quirks were weird, but, come on. Power stockpiling quirk, that could be passed between people not related to each other? That was a bit of the stretch. And supervillain, that was able to take quirks away from the people? Nope, he didn't want to comment on it. Massaging his scalp, he glanced at Yagi-san. "Okay. At least this cleared the mystery of your quirk, and why do you look like mummy without the cloth around you? No offense here." "None taken, young Midoriya." All Might waved his hand. "But with that out of the way, I would like to ask you a question." He looked Izuku straight in the eye, his face adopting the grave features. "Will you accept one for all and become next symbol of peace? I've seen you during sports festival, especially how you flew to rescue young Hatsum. I believe that you have what is needed to become a hero that will protect our society." That caught him off guard. He was glad that his number 3 favorite hero had that kind of opinion about him. But becoming next All Might? Becoming the man who can punch his way through any problem, with smile that can melt any worry away? Could he become such a man? Well, sure, just grab that weird quirk and done. That thought itself left him with mixed feelings. When he was younger he was sour about not having power on his own. Not being able to breathe fire, attract things to him or something between. But now, that he had his knowledge, his inventions, his important people, who liked him for who he was. Gazing at the hero and sending him bright smile he said only one word. Pass. Yagi-san stood up and laughed loudly. Yes. I know that you would AGR. Wait, what? He looked at him with lost expression. Pass. I'm honored that you wanted me to succeed you, but nope. I'm good with what I've got. Izuku leaned back into the couch. Besides, don't you think it would be suspicious and weird that out of nowhere a boy that was quirkless his entire life can level a city with a punch? He raised his brow at All Might's sheepish face. You didn't thought about it, did you? He asked in deadpan tone. I'm a bit too enthusiastic from time to time and tend to forget about little details. Yagi-san admitted, scratching his head. I, for one, know that it would be your answer, young Midoriya. Nizu stated proudly. Izuku snorted, shooting a look at the principal's smug face. Of course you did, he coughed quietly. Now, if this is all, I would like to return to my workshop. Me and May still have some things to go over before our internship starts tomorrow. He stood up, getting ready to leave. Of course. Oh, and remember to be ready by Tuesday. Aizawa-san said that he will gladly take you under his wing. Nizu informed him. Young Midoriya, before you go. Yagi-san called him and extended his palm. I respect your choice, and even with you not accepting one for all, I'm going to support you on your way to become a hero. He smiled widely. Izuku shook the hand and nodded. Thank you, All Might. This means a lot to me. By now she should get used to it. In a way she did, that was until her mind reminded her about the Monday and how her friends complimented her. Suddenly having May on her lap, tinkering with some new baby, was a tad too much and left her with burning cheeks. Her eyes went against her will and wandered across girl's body. Taking sights of how her amber eyes shone with that crazy excitement. How her uneven, pink dreadlocks were framing her face. How her features were soft and round. How small droplets of sweat traveled down her neck. How her arms were lean and muscular. How her tank top hugged her chest tightly. How her thin waist widened a bit at her hips. How her legs swayed a bit back and forth. It wasn't a groundbreaking discovery, but Momo once again was reminded of just how beautiful her friend was. She didn't know when, but her hand found her way towards girl's hair and started petting it. She watched May stop for a moment, before returning to her work with small smile gracing her plump lips. Once again she caught herself fantasying about how she wanted to touch those lips. Momo started a little experiment a while ago. Well, not exactly an experiment, but she started observing other girls. She found some cute, some sexy, some beautiful, or mix of those three. May fell into the mixed category. And that led her to wanting to know what those thoughts meant. Doors opened and Izuku stepped in, wearing his new pilot suit. This one was more form-fitting, leaving nothing to imagine. Honestly, he put to shame some of the boys in her class. She licked her lips, due to their sudden dryness. How is the suit? May asked, looking at her partner. Good, it helps with coldness on higher altitudes, he answered, searching for something. Do you know where the pliers are? Zipper jammed and I can't open it. Momo stood up, ignoring her female friend pout for losing one of the greatest sits in the school, and moved to Izuku. Let me help you. No need. I just need pliers, he protested, waving his hands at her. His voice was weird, but she just strapped it to just getting out from the armor. She forced him to turn around and grab the zip puller. Wait! Izuku shouted, when she pushed Zipper down. She jumped up and looked at him quizzically. He seemed terrified, gazing at her with wide eyes. Why was he so scared of her seeing his back? She heard metal hit the floor and May's gasp. Glancing at the girl, Momo saw her looking right onto Izuku. Following her gaze, she soon released a breath. There, right between his shoulder blades, was a pale imprint of hand with some rough skin around it. It seemed to be rather old, but it was noticeable. Izuku, she whispered, her hand hovering above the scar. She wanted to touch it, but wasn't sure if she could. He released a heavy sigh and went to the bean bags, plopping on the middle one. He kept his gaze on the floor. Momo peeked at May and saw her nod lightly. The two of them sat on his sides and grabbed Izuku's hands, squeezing them tightly. His own grip grew stronger. And so they waited for him to say something. She was sure that he would tell them eventually. After a full minute of silence and taking a deep breath, he said. It happened when me and Bakugo were little. Like, 5 or something. He paused for a moment. After getting his quirk, everyone begun to shower him with praises, saying how awesome his quirk was, how magnificent it was that he possessed such a strong quirk, how he would become a great hero. He let out a bitter laugh. But instead he became a bully. Every kid that even tried to oppose him, he beat them up. That in turn stroked his ego even further. Adults just ignored it. Kids are playing rough, that's how they called it. Izuku paused for a moment. One time he attacked a boy at the playground, because kid didn't want to leave the swing. I stood up to Bakugo and his lackeys, so they went after me. But I rose up every time. Finally Firecracker stuck his hand to my back and used his quirk, screaming at me to stay down. Momo didn't know what to say about it. She was angry at the blonde for doing such terrible things for over a decade. She was confused, because she couldn't understand why no one tried to stop him or why adults didn't see a problem. She was amazed by Izuku and his will to defend the boy. Rubbing her thumb against his palm, she asked, "Didn't your mom try to do anything about it?" Izuku glanced at her with sad, shameful eyes. She doesn't know. Honestly, I have no idea how I've kept it away from her all those years. Only Stan was aware of it, but he swore his secrecy to me. Does it hurt? May questioned quietly, running her fingers across the scar. No, but it feels funny, when someone touches it. Like you're trying to tickle me with a feather, he replied, leaning back into the bean bag. Her friend lay down on Green Inventor's chest and glanced at her. Ignoring her shyness and the heat on her cheeks, she followed May's example. She was on his left, which allowed her to hear his loud heartbeat. Momo felt him wrap his arms around them, keeping them close. Pink Inventor took her palm, placing them right in the middle of Boy's torso. We're never making baby for that blonde prick. Like ever. May declared seriously, making Izuku hum in agreement. Momo tilted her head up, catching a bit of his face. You're really brave, you know? He chuckled a bit and turned his head to her. His green eyes gazed right into her onyx ones. Thank you, he gave her a small, grateful smile. At this moment Momo decided 2 things. 1, she would do her best to beat Bakugo down every time she gets a chance. And 2, there was no other place she would rather be than with those 2. The internship at the best support company in Japan. Whole week of glorious baby making with Izuku at the Miyashiro Industries, with the best possible equipment. She could barely contain her excitement. According to her boyfriend she didn't, but that was beside the point. Oh, wait. He told her something about going back to school, to have some hero apprenticeship. She pouted a bit at that, but otherwise was happy for him. They could go back home every day, seeing as Tokyo was only half an hour from Mizutafu, but May didn't want to waste time and money for traveling. So she coaxed Izuku into arranging hotel room as close to their internship as possible. She may have used her lips to silence his possible protest. What she didn't understand was his reaction of disbelief, when he saw that their room had only 1 bed. She heard him say something about having a talk with Alan, but ignored it. Father should have good contact with his children. After arriving at the Miyashiro Industries they couldn't help but look at the building. It was tall and modern, huge windows and with giant logo. Her mouth watered at the sight of it. She pretty much dreamed about a building like that for her own company. Well, hers and Izuku's, but what's his is hers so? Did it really matter? What surprised them the most was that, almost immediately they were taken by the friendly secretary to the enormous lab. She thought that their workshop, alongside launching station, was huge, but this? They could fit everything here at least thrice. And the best part was? It was given to them for their stay here. She expected that they would have to attend some boring meetings with scientists that would tell them do and don't, trying to gloat about how awesome they were. Or have lectures about business, learning how to run your company successfully. Actually that didn't sound too bad. But getting the place with the latest, cutting-edge equipment, built-in assembly line and having access to seemingly unlimited amount of recourses? She wasn't the one to question things. Most of the first day was spent by them getting to know machines they never used and upgrading Jetpack. Izuku suggested to make it into something that would allow the user to move more freely. She agreed with it. Using hover boots to maneuver in the air wasn't exactly a piece of cake. Not having a holotable was a bit of nuisance, but Alan put together new blueprints and sent them. Whatever works, she guessed. They abandoned the box for more streamlined oval shape with 2 thrusters. For maneuverability they added folded wings. The control problem was solved by adding bracers with sensors. Izuku would write the program later, so everything would run smoothly. During their lunch break, they were literally swarmed by workers, mostly inventors. And instead of gloating, they praised their work, asked questions about their babies and even suggested some potential improvements. Then came the question about arc reactor. So Izuku told them a tale about how it was built and run. Most of the crowd was silent, but some mentioned something about needing a drink. She heard them saying that her boyfriend basically created a new field of technology. She was proud of him. Their first night at the hotel was interesting. She was strangely excited and nervous about sharing a bed with Izuku. From his expression, she judged that he was too. At first they just laid next to each other, but she was allured by warmth radiating from him. So she did what she thought was right and plopped her head on his chest, putting her arm around his stomach and tangling their legs together. He tensed a bit, but quickly relaxed, which ended up with him hugging her close to him. Honestly, she didn't know when she had fallen asleep, but she knew one thing. There was no freaking way that she would be able to sleep without him at home. The plan for a second day was non-existing. But after coming to lab, they saw a man in fancy business suit, checking out their jetpack. There was something familiar about him, especially his eyes, but she couldn't put her finger on it. He didn't give them a name, but presented himself as a big passionate of science and technology. He wasn't an engineer himself, but his questions were right on point. It turned he gave them tips and small lectures about running the company. But not in the boring voice. He was funny, made all sort of comparisons, mixing it with jokes here and there. This guy was awesome. They asked him to stay and keep them company, on which he gladly agreed. May decided to complete the work on the jetpack. As for Izuku, he was checking Puppy's program. He himself admitted that he had absolutely no idea how it was possible for him to gain a consciousness. She knew that parts of Alan's system were used to make the new software for robots, but from what she deduced none were about them archiving the self-awareness. This is interesting. Izuku said absent-mindedly, looking at the lines of code. What is, kid? Man asked, gazing at the monitors. Puppy still has almost exactly the same software as other 0-pointers, he informed them, typing quickly on the keyboard. Almost, she questioned, getting more and more interested. Yeah, almost, he highlighted the few lines of code. This is something that I didn't add. So, where did it come from? Man queried curiously. Izuku changed his position into the thinking one and remained silent for a few moments. My guess is? Okay, this may go a little bit around it, but yeah. So 0-pointers have a special order to avoid harming participants in any way. They may destroy buildings, roads and so on, but they can't cause damage to human. They link with the cameras around testing sites and robots inside to generate routes that will only scare of people. Okay, what about it? May asked, not seeing where this was going. The testing side, where Puppy was, had most of the robots destroyed by students and some of the cameras due to the reckless way of fighting. Plus Puppy was buried underground. So when it rose up, all of the concrete was sent into the air. Uraraka-san was caught under one of the slabs and she was on his route. Being unable to determine a new route and breaking the directive about not harming humans, his system went into overdrive, he explained further. That still doesn't explain the consciousness gain. Man said, frowning a little. My guess is that the learning program kicked in, and due to the connection to the school system, it used internet to teach itself what to do. This changed into a slow process of learning about the world and archiving awareness. Izuku pointed at the screen. Those lines basically say that if the need arises, Puppy will search for the best solution on the matter. Wow. May wrapped her arms around his shoulders. So he's like Alan then? Not exactly, he shook his head. Alan was specially designed to do it. But here 0-pointer used its system to learn how to deal with presented situation and became Puppy. Do you think we can buy it from school? She questioned, looking at him. It would be a shame to reset it to the basic functions. Getting rid of Puppy wasn't okay with her. She hadn't created him, but this was Izuku's baby. And as his girlfriend it was her job to make sure that all of their adorable children would be safe and get needed love. If you want to go through with it, I suggest for you to open a company. Man said, gaining their attention. Trust me, the taxes for such a huge buy will be much lower for it. And if the school will give you a contract, then it would be even less. Open a company? Yes, 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 yes. Hell yeah. She wanted to it with Izuku right here, right now. She begun jumping around her boyfriend, gazing at him with expectation. Izuku blinked and turned to the man. Can we even do it? I mean, we're not adults yet. Man just chuckled at them. Normally no, but this old fox knows some loopholes in the system. If you want, I can get a papers and help you with this, he proposed with smirk. What are you even waiting for? Go and come back fast. May ordered him, grinning brightly. Man laughed loudly and left their lab in hurry. She liked him even more. You know, we should celebrate it somehow. Izuku suggested, his overjoyed eyes gazing at her. Plopping down on his lap and wrapping her arm around his neck, May looked at him with love. I know how. She kissed him with passion, just like the first time, when it happened. Izuku returned it gladly, making their kiss even better. Momo was excited, slightly embarrassed, and scared. All at once. And it was because of her internship. While Aizawa-sensei took her class to the train station, she remained in school. Reason? She was interning with a teacher from their school. The hero that Izuku suggested to her. Opening the door of the staff room, she was greeted with a sight of grinning Midnight in her hero costume. Finally. I thought that you run away somewhere. Heroine said to her. Sorry for the wait. Momo bowed lightly. As a class president, I had to make sure that my classmates had all necessary things. Midnight waved her hand at her. It's fine, don't sweat about it. But, her tone changed to more dangerous one, her eyes had feral look and her tongue licked her lips slowly. Don't make a habit out of it. Otherwise, I might have to punish you. A chill ran down her spine. Now she understood why Aizawa-sensei gave her his condolences when he saw her choice. You couldn't tell what this woman would do. Yes, sir. And just like that, Midnight turned back to her happy persona, smiling brightly at her. Good. Now go change and grab your luggage. We're going to another city. Momo blinked at her, not knowing about it before. If I may ask, why? Heroine hummed and begun checking paper on the table. Hosu Police Department requested heroes to do more patrols, due to the recent attack of Hero Killer. And as a freelancer of sort, I decided to take it. Besides, it'll be a good opportunity to show you how to operate during the time when people aren't feeling safe. Midnight explained. She nodded at the arguments. Reasons were fine with her. What about a hero killer? He may strike again. She didn't want to run at that villain. That's true, but if this happens, then he would have a small army of heroes to get through. Heroine turned to her and smiled reassuringly. Don't worry, Yayorozu, I won't allow my beautiful apprentice to be harmed. Momo was glad for that and felt a bit better. But did that woman really needed to call her apprentice? She wasn't exactly aiming to become a hero like R-rated hero, Midnight. After the train ride and dropping their stuff at the hotel, she went at her first patrol. Talk about exciting. She followed heroine advices and kept looking around, searching for potential problems. So far it was quiet, the only disturbance came from people recognizing her from sports festival. Some praised her performance, telling her that they were rooting for her, others wanted her autograph and picture. Midnight encouraged her to do it, saying that it made people happy and at ease. During their walk she saw many heroes. Some known, some not, but all of them diligently patrolled the streets. She caught the sight of her classmate, Ida-san. She waved at him, but he didn't give any response. Weird, Teen was very polite and always greeted people with respect. She guessed that he wanted to do his duty right. First day of her internship ended with nothing except pictures, autographs, and hurt feet. However, Midnight explained her a little more meticulously about how exactly heroes were getting paid and about the different types of codes used for emergencies. So it wasn't absolutely wasted. Message from Kendo-chan, who whined about her internship with Iwabumi, made her glad that she listened to Izuku. Her mind wandered towards her friends. They texted her, telling her how they were doing. She was surprised when she saw the sign saying Miyashiro Industries. Did her parents have something to do with it? She would ask them after coming back home. But she was glad for baby-making duo. She sighed loudly. She already missed them terribly. Oh ho ho. I know that sound. Midnight, in her PJs, said, sitting down on her bed with teasing smirk. What sound? Momo questioned, not knowing what was going inside heroine head. That sigh you just made. It's the one when you miss someone who's very close to you. Woman explained. Well, I'm missing Izuku and Mei. We won't see each other for a week, she admitted sadly. Genius boy and that crazy, pink girl? Midnight asked interested. Yes. They're my best friends, she said, smiling widely. Honestly, it's the first time that we're not seeing each other for so long. Heroine just looked at her for a moment, before smirking. You like them? Woman stated with chuckle. Correction. You love them, she told her, wiggling her brows. What? Momo shouted, looking with wide eyes at the Midnight. No. We're just good friends. There was no way that she was in love with them. But why did her heart beat stronger at the thought? Heroine's smirk widened as she leaned forward. Sure. But let me ask you something. What do you feel when you're with them? She blinked at the question. Her mind supplied her with all kinds of memories she spent with baby-making duo. I feel happy. Overjoyed. Every time, when there's a lunchtime or our lessons end, I'm looking for them. I thrive to be with them. Nice. Now how would you describe them? Midnight pushed forward. Momo took a moment to collect her thoughts. Well, Izuku is the most intelligent person I've ever met. He's hardworking, passionate, very kind and polite towards others. He's very good at analyzing people and their quirks. His smiles can turn into the miniature sun. Also he can make a perfect impression of Aizawa-sensei. Heroine laughed at the last one. Okay, what about Hatsum? She's very energetic and touchy, not that's a bad thing. Like Izuku, Mei is very serious about her work as an inventor. She has a strange moments, when she just knows what to do or say to make your day better. Despite being seemingly clueless, she's rather empathic. Like you've said, she's a bit crazy, but in a good way. Nice going. But what about their bodies? Do you find them attractive? Midnight questioned, licking her lips. The mental images of her friends flashed before her eyes. She remembered Izuku in his pilot suit, how tightly it fitted him, showing his figure. She remembered his fluffy, curly hair, that she wanted to pet all day long. His bright, emerald eyes, that from time to time shone. As for Mei, holy crap. She saw her naked, when she helped Recovery Girl change her friend from wet clothes. She saw her best friend in the birth suit. Her cheeks heated up and she was very sure that her whole body turned red. They're very attractive, she replied in whisper. Both? Midnight dug further. Yes, both. Momo hid her face in her hands. Just checking. Last question. Do you have a strange feeling, when they're near you or touch you? Like having a knot in your stomach or your heart beating faster? Taking a moment to collect herself, she peeked at the heroine from behind her fingers. Every time. Congratulations. Woman exclaimed happily. You're bisexual and in love with two people. The words reached her and her brain processed them many times. In the end her mind decided to the one thing. Pass out with huge, overjoyed grin on her face. Opening her eyes and seeing unfamiliar ceiling was weird. Blinking the sleep away, she remembered that she was at her internship with Midnight at Hosu. Heroine took her for patrol and told her more about their profession. Then they returned to Hotel N? Wait. She sat up abruptly, her mind running through the yesterday's night at Mach 10 speed. The talk with Midnight, things she told her about her beloved friends, the joy she felt in her heart. She plopped down and let out a happy squeal, followed by the girly giggle. She, Momo Yaoyorozu, was in love. Honestly, how could she be so blind? She read so many romance manga, that she should be an expert in that matter. But now she didn't care. Why? Because she was in love. It was the best argument she could make and everyone, who had a problem with it, had to deal with it. Oh, I see someone is in good mood today. Midnight said, leaning against the bathroom doorway with smirk on her lips. Momo calmed herself down and looked at the heroine. I am, she smiled widely, but frown soon came out. But, what do I do from this point? She gazed at the woman. Midnight came closer and sat at the bed. Isn't it obvious? You go and tell them. That was a bit too straightforward for her. She was just made aware of her crushes. Besides, but won't I have to choose? Could she even? Her heart squeezed painfully. Well, there was her answer. Heroine raised her brow. Why would even you choose? You can be with both. Woman told her as it was the most natural thing in the world. Momo gazed at Midnight, not understanding what she meant. I mean, since quirks came into play, many things changed in society. Homosexuality and bisexuality are normal nowadays. As for polyamorous relations, they became popular about 100 years ago. In Japan, polyamorous marriages are legal for about 76 years now. Heroine explained calmly. She couldn't help but gasp at the information. She had no idea that those were normal things. So there was a hope for her to be with Izuku and Mei. Would they even want to be with me? She questioned doubtfully. The potential rejection scared her. Midnight laughed at her words and shook her head with amusement. Are you kidding me? Just from what you told me yesterday, I can tell that they care deeply about you. I can bet my money that they have feelings for you as well. Woman smiled genuinely at her. If you want, I could help you, she said with playful wink. Would you? Momo asked hopefully. This was her chance, seeing as romance manga failed her. Of course. I love good romance. By the time I'm done with you, those two will beg to be with you. Then came the feral look. But, if you truly want my help, then I must declare you my official apprentice. And that means you must call me mistress. Momo swallowed loudly. Was her potential relationships with Baby making duo worth it? Would she lower her dignity to gain a thing she always fantasized since reading her first romance? Gazing right into Midnight's eyes she said. When do we start, mistress? Izuku shuddered. Glancing at his girlfriend, he saw that she stopped tinkering with special goggles to new jetpack. May, did you also just had a feeling that made you both extremely happy and terrified? She looked at him and nodded vigorously. Do you know what this could be about? No idea. He admitted, before going back to his work. Turns out becoming the apprentice of R-rated hero wasn't that bad. Heroine took her to hotel's spacious gym and begun teaching her how to fight even more efficiently. Midnight was a capture hero, but there were times when she couldn't use her quirk due to enemies being prepared for her or risking putting her allies to sleep. So Woman showed her how to fight dirty, which meant using everything to her advantage. Grab their hair, hit them in sensitive places, use their weight against them, bash them with different objects. Basically do everything to down your opponent. Izuku was right, that heroine was a great choice for her. Yeah, she could create a lot of things, but that drained away her fat reserves, which meant draining her energy. She needed to be smart about it. After 2 hours of basically making out with Floor, as her mistress put it, they went out into the city for a small patrol. They would do one more at the night to hopefully catch some action. She couldn't deny that she wanted to feel the rush of adrenaline. Besides, internship was all about it, gaining experience. Momo caught the sight of someone pointing into the sky and her eyes followed in that direction. She saw a black drone flying around. It seemed strangely familiar to her. Her mind supplied her with memory, when she was sitting with May outside the launching station. Girl wanted to test some new flying device. Now that she thought about it, those turbines were exactly the same. Did her friends had a special order to make those? She should ask them later. After coming back and changing into normal clothes, Midnight begun a special lesson. The art of deception and interrogation, which would also allow her to woo her crushes. And in simpler terms, how to use your body to your advantage. She was embarrassed by it. She had a special teacher before, one that made her walk around her room in heels with book on her head. To learn how to move like a proper lady. What her mistress taught her was absolutely unladylike. But it left her with strange feeling of freedom. There was something natural about this movements and her body just picked it like it was its second nature. Midnight called her natural seducer, which caused her to turn into tomato. She was not a seducer. She just thought that it may come useful in the future. And potentially make her love objects fall for her charm. Night rolled by, before she even knew about it. Her mistress was right, there was action. They went into the bad part of the Hosu and right of the bat they started with a robbery. 2 masked men tried to get money from small shop. They didn't have guns or knives with them, apparently their quirks were enough. Following the protocol and Midnight's instruction, firstly she secured the area and people. Making sure that civilians were safe, she went in, only to dodge one of the robbers, who flew out of the door. She glanced at Heroine, who was straightening up from the throw motion. Mistress winked at her, before going for the other guy. Processing the message, she created handcuffs. Nearing the downed men, she had to jump back to avoid the wild swipe of his elongated nails. Robber rose up quickly, but was limping on his left leg. He lunged at her, trying to pierce her with his claws. Instead of backing out, she went into his range. Gracefully dodging his slashes, Momo grabbed his arm and pulled, simultaneously, kicking his left shin. His face met asphalt and he let out a painful groan. Twisting his arm, she cuffed his wrist. Sitting on his back, she grabbed other arm and presented it with steel bracelet. Turning back to store, she saw Heroine dragging out other man, who appeared to be knocked out. Good job, Creati. Woman said, flashing a smile at her. Thank you, Midnight, she replied, rising up. Aha, that's not how my cute, little apprentice is supposed to call me. Heroine told her, feral gaze directed at her. Thank you. Mistress Momo whispered, hiding her red face from the world. How was she supposed to call her that in public? She could barely do it in private. After getting over her embarrassment and police taking robbers away, they continued with their patrol. She saw more drones flying above them, mostly checking the alleys. She shrugged it off for now. She would get her answers from Izuku or Mei later. Stopping mugging, car thief and even a freaking arsonist, they witnessed police chasing some drunk person, who drove recklessly. She wanted to help somehow, but Midnight pointed out that there was no way for them to catch a speeding vehicle. She reluctantly admitting that she couldn't do anything. "Hey!" Mistress called her, placing her hand on her shoulder. "I know it can be frustrating, not being able to help. But you're not the only hero. Focus on doing what you can." Woman smiled gently at her. Momo nodded at her words. Heroine was right, she'd just begun her path as a hero, and learning when you can and can't do something was also a part of her job. Another valuable lesson. Before they could carry on with their duty, someone screamed. Touring around, she saw a purse snatcher, pushing his way through crowd. Peeking at Midnight, she saw her giving her thumbs up. Cracking a smile, she speeded towards the runner. Thinking quickly, she jumped up and created a rollerblades on her feet. Pushing with all her might, she quickly caught up and saw a young boy, no older than 10. Frowning at it, she got ahead of Kid, and put herself right into his path. Boy saw her at the last second and ran straight into her. Catching him by shoulder, she gently pinned him against a wall. He was struggling a bit, but seeing that he couldn't do anything, Kid just gave up. Midnight and Elder Lady came soon after this. "Thank you, hero," Granny said, taking her purse. She glanced at the boy and huffed at him. "You should put that little villain into some juvenile detention center. They always start small." Lady told them, before turning away and walking away. Villain? That was a strong word. Momo wouldn't call this boy this. She remembered, when Izuku told her, how this word is used too frequently to describe every illegal activity. Even the pettiest criminals were described as villains. This didn't seem right to her. Was society always like this? Kneeling down and gazing at the kid, who was scowling at her, she asked gently. "Why did you do it? Why do you care?" Boy answered rudely, turning away for her. "Because I want to know. I'm still a heroine in training, but I still want to help people. It doesn't matter to me who you are and what you've done," she said firmly, smiling lightly at him. Kid peeked at her with dubiety. "Me and my sister are poor. I wanted to get us something to eat, but we don't have any money." "Couldn't you ask your parents for some money?" she questioned, tilting her head. "They're not at home. Probably drunk somewhere," again, Boy admitted bitterly. Momo frowned deeply. She couldn't really understand what he was going through. Her parents were always there for her, or at least tried to be. Besides, she was raised in luxury, always having everything she wanted, but not to the point of being spoiled rotten. Unsure how to proceed, she looked at Midnight. Heroine walked away and talked with officers, who just arrived. After few moments, one of them came and took a boy into the police car, being as gentle with him as they could. "Don't worry about him," Heroine told her, smiling lightly. "I instructed them to take him home and get him and his sister a supper." "What about the parents?" Momo asked with interest. She hoped that the sibling wouldn't be forced to stay with such horrible people. Most likely they will have a case in the court. On the side note, you did good here. Woman patted her on the head. I just thought it was wrong to assume things about him. He's still young, she told truthfully. Mistress smiled fondly at her. "You will become a great hero one day, Creati." Finally, after numerous phone calls and messages left, Nizu had a chance to meet with young Bakugo's parents. He started believing that they just ignored him on purpose. His first impression of Boy's father was good one. Man seemed to be a soft-spoken, kind and polite. And he offered a tea, which meant a lot to Nizu. Sipping from his cup, he gazed at the Bakugo-san. Man was a bit tense, which was absolutely understandable, after so many attempts of getting into the contact. Smiling lightly, to create a pleasant aura for their conversation, Nizu begun. "Although it took a while, I'm happy that we can finally have a chat." "Yes, sorry for that. Me and my wife are pretty busy with our work," Bakugo-san explained timidly. "No worries, it's completely understandable. Speaking of, is your wife joining us?" Nizu questioned with interest. He wanted to meet both parents of the problematic student. Man shook his head. "Unfortunately no, she got a call and had to go. Sorry for the inconvenience." He nodded at that, not showing his discontent. "That's okay. Things like that happens." He took another sip from a cup, before fondling his paws on his lap. "Now, let us get to the point of my visit." "Of course. You've said that it's very important," Bakugo-san said, focusing entirely on him. He decided to test the waters with a seemingly simple question. Did young Bakugo said that he's meeting with our school psychologist? Man's eyes widened. No, he hadn't tell us a word about it. Nizu nodded, frowning lightly. His aggressive behavior is something that can't be overlooked. Bakugo-san raised a brow. I know, that Katsuki can be rough and loud, but is it really that big of a problem? He sighed lightly, hoping that the information he's to reveal won't be too much for a man. You and your wife weren't told about it, but your son's actions could lead to the death of his classmate during exercise. Bakugo-san whitened and his hands begun to tremble. Opening his mouth a few times, he finally formed a sentence in half-whisper. Is that student all right? Nizu allowed himself to smile lightly. At the very least this man could understand the gravity of the situation, unlike his son, who just shrugged it off. Yes, young Yaoyorozu is perfectly fine. Bakugo-san released a breath and relaxed a bit. That's good to hear. Wait, Yaoyorozu? Isn't that the girl that Katsuki fought at the festival? The one with black hair and quirk that made things pop out from her skin? Yes, that's the one. Nizu admitted, nodding. While we're at it, what are your thoughts about the match? Man bit his lip and scratched his temple. While I'm glad for him that he won, I think that he went too far with it, he admitted truthfully. That he did. If it wasn't for Recovery Girl, young Yaoyorozu's life could be in danger. Nizu said gravely. Bakugo-san lowered his head. I'm terribly sorry for my son's action, he sounded really sincere about it. Thank you for that. You see, I'm looking for a reason for young Bakugo's behavior. I've already visited his previous school. While teachers praised him, students told me that he was a bully. Everyone who was in his way, and I quote here, got at least one explosion to their faces. Nizu explained, hoping that he boy's father could enlighten him. I was not aware of that. Every time, when I went for a parent-teacher meeting, I was told just how great of a student Katsuki was. Man admitted, utterly bewildered with this. Nizu scowled lightly, but quickly returned his expression to neutral one. I see. Do you have any idea from where this kind of behavior may come from? Bakugo-san took a few moments to gather his thoughts. I think that it is possible for my wife to cause some of this, he said bitterly. Mitsuki is fixated about things being perfect and our son being strong. Ever since he got his quirk and told us that he wanted to be a hero, she became pushy with him. That was a very valuable information. It was sure now that the problems with young Bakugo's attitude came from home. School and kids that wanted to befriend him for his powerful quirk only worsened situation. Thank you for that, Bakugo-san. Nizu said, smiling politely. If I may ask, are you planning on expelling Katsuki? The question was laced with slight amount of fear. For now I gave your son the ultimatum. Either he fixes his unacceptable behavior or he's transferred to general education. But if everything fails, then I'd have no other option but to do it. Nizu hoped it really wouldn't come to this. I see. Thank you for your visit and honesty, Principal. Bakugo-san said gratefully. It was just one day, but it still felt surreal to him. He was 15, not even 3 months into the high school, and he had his own company. Izuku had a hard time believing it. Same with becoming the current youngest multi-billionaire in the world. He and Mei decided that he should be the president. She only took a bit of the contribution, seeing as it was his money poured into the business. But his girlfriend was happy nonetheless. It was a really big step for them. He may have coaxed Mei to agree with the name of their company. While Hatsumiya Industries sounded good, he really wanted to pay homage to the Marvel Entertainment Incorporated. Without them Iron Man wouldn't exist and most likely he would still be at the bottom of self-pitying chasm. After Quark showed up, Marvel soon bankrupted and closed their doors for good, which saddened him greatly. So in honor to it, he named his company Marvel Industries. And while he was in a business mode, he looked through thousands of messages from numerous companies, asking him about sharing his arc reactor with them. Even a Minister of Energy and Resources mailed him, proposing a deal. Man wanted to exchange the nuclear power for something more powerful and clean. That made him really glad. Him and his bank account. Not that he was greedy for money. There were also quite a few messages, mostly from military, politely asking him to sell his suit to them. He answered them all with a simple and firm no. Literally. There was no way that he would ever do it. Iron Man suit armed with real weapon, ready to kill its targets? They would have to pray it from his cold, dead hands. Excuse him for not wanting to pulling the potential trigger for a third world war to start. Another surprise came from America. Turns out, there are still some Marvel fans. After seeing him during sports festival, the internet was almost flooded with images of him and his armor, compared to the comics and movies version. They even called him real-life Tony Stark, which put a giant smile on his face. He created an account at the most popular blog and answered a few questions. Needlessly to say that people were pleased. "It's ready," Mei shouted from the other part of the lab. Standing up from the computer and walking to her, Izuku saw her jumping around the workbench. On it was the new jetpack, bracers with sensors and special goggles. All painted black. "Our new baby is ready to go." Izuku chuckled at her enthusiasm and kissed her on the cheek. "Did you test it?" he asked doubtfully. She sent him hurt look. "Of course. I want this adorable child of yours to succeed." And there was no explosions, he raised an eyebrow. She put her hands on her hips and pushed her chest out in pride. "I'm a reformed inventor thanks to you. I don't know just how much time I've saved thanks to following your way of thinking." Izuku was glad for that. He didn't want complaints about Mei utterly destroying a testing side. Having the most powerful company in Japan against them, when they barely started their business, could end up badly. "Why did you want to add that moistening feature to the goggles anyway?" she asked, grabbing the device. He smiled lightly at her. "I want to give this baby to Aizawa-san as a thank you for taking me as an intern," he explained, but earned a blink with clueless expression. "Momo's homeroom teacher." Another blink. "The hobo caterpillar," he told her with sigh. "Oh. Him. Why didn't you say so earlier?" She laughed loudly, obvious to his misery. "But if he's going to fly with this, then he should get some sort of jumpsuit." Petting her hair, he gazed at the clock above the entrance. He needed to gather his things. "I've got it covered." Mei embraced him tightly, putting her chin on his chest, looking him straight in the eye. "It will be boring without you," she told him, pouting lightly. "Sorry for that." He leaned down and kissed her lightly. "You can always watch my suit camera for some action." She hummed, playing with his hair. "It won't be the same." Soon grin crept on her face. "But at least I'll have something to do in the meantime." "Oh yeah, Puppy's new body, right?" he asked just to be sure. "Yup," she bounced slightly. "You're sure that principal is okay with selling him to us?" He said that he could even give Puppy to us for free, but I denied it. "We're signing the papers, after I'm at school." Izuku confirmed happily. It was time for his accidental kid to be home with him. Great. "So, nothing too big, because we want him to help around the lab, right?" Mei questioned, already typing on the computer a message to Alan. "Yes, it would be easier to interact with him. So maybe somewhere around the adult size," he suggested, gathering everything to the case. "All right. I'll get it done." She turned the chair around to glance at him. "Hey, what about the big body?" Izuku adopted his thinking position. Would they need it? Not really. He may just permanently transfer Puppy into the new body and wipe zero-pointer drives clean. But something about having a giant robot of utter destruction was appealing to him. "For now we're going to keep it with the rest in the magazine. If we need, we can do something later with it." "Okay," Mei happily exclaimed, before going back to work. He almost got late for a train, thanks to his girlfriend wanting to give him a goodbye. He briefly wondered when did she learn to kiss like that, not that he had anything against it. Arriving back at Muzutafu and coming to Nizu's office, he was greeted by Principal and Aizawa-san, who were watching feeds from drones on the tablet. "Right on time, young Midoriya," Nizu said, motioning him to sit. "Did the drones found something?" he asked, peeking at the tablet. "So far it's clear, sir. Hero killer is still hiding," Alan informed him. "That or he's run away from the city. With all the heroes patrolling the area he might got scared off." Aizawa-san commented his slightly displeased tone. "From his file it's rather unlikely," Izuku stated, opening the folder with Stain's information. "He usually kills 3-4 heroes, who he thinks aren't suited for a job, before relocating. And so far only Ingenium was attacked." "Speaking of, how is the prosthetic?" Nizu asked interested. He really cared about the man, even if he wasn't a student anymore. "Pretty much done. We're still before the first fitting, but otherwise it's ready," Izuku replied happily. If this worked out, his company could offer a first product to the society. "What's in the case, kid?" Aizawa-san asked, tipping his head at the object. He grinned widely. "Actually that's something for you, eraser head." Hiro just raised an eyebrow, waiting for him to continue. "It's a thank you gift for agreeing with interning me. You can take the whole thing or just the goggles." He putted the case on the table and opened it, showing its contents. "It's modified jetpack, that Mei made. We gave it aerodynamic shape and folded wings to allow better maneuverability. The bracers have sensors in them that send the information to the computer, which steers the wigs. Also, they're reinforced, so it's possible for them to block some hits. Just don't go crazy with them. As for goggles, they have a few functions, like distance measurement and aim support. But the feature that will no doubt catch your attention is the special layer that is going to help you with your dry eye problem. At the lab, I've got prepared the special suit that will help you with keeping your body warm while flying. It's made from durable material, so it won't tear easily while fighting. Izuku explained calmly, passing the goggles with red-tinted glass to Aizawa-san. Eraserhead put them on and looked around the room. He was silent for a few moments, before a small smirk showed on his lips. Nice work, Midoriya. Thank you, sir, he nodded, joyous for his and May's success. How is it called, young Midoriya? Nizu asked, checking out one of the bracelets. Izuku scratched his cheek and gave a sheepish chuckle. We haven't given it a name yet. But seeing as it's for underground hero, who works mostly at night. How about Night Raven, he asked, glancing at Aizawa-san. Man pushed his goggles up and shrugged. Good name as any. I'm more interested with your information gathering skills, his voice gained a slight edge. We saw that during a festival you were well prepared for your competition. Almost like you had strategies developed beforehand. Izuku peeked at Nizu, who also was looking at him, awaiting his answer. Smiling innocently, he replied with small shrug. I may have hacked into the school camera system and watch every first-year student, gathering all and any information, which then I used to make profiles about them, that helped me to pretty much nullify any potential threat. At first there was silence. Eerie, slightly uncomfortable silence. He wasn't expecting that kind of reaction. But it was soon broken by Nizu's maniacal laughter. Aizawa-san on the other hand had a giant, shit-eating grin splitting his face in half-face. That was more like what he had in mind. You sure, you don't want to transfer to my class? Eraserhead asked hopefully. Sorry. I need my support license to run my company successfully. He tried to sound apologetic about it. Besides, I think without me, May would revert to her old ways and Power Loader would drunk himself to death. He chuckled a bit at that. Right, Kansan complained, that since young Hatsum moved out with you, he have lost his drinking buddy. Nizu commented, evidently finding the situation hilarious. Anyway, get yourself ready, kid. I'm taking you for your first patrol. Aizawa-san stated, standing up and grabbing the case. Besides, you need to teach me how to operate that thing. His heart beat stronger. This was it. His very first step towards his hero carrier. He would squeeze as much experience from it as he could. Even if it meant not sleeping for next 72 hours. Yes, sir. And that's it for today. If you enjoyed, please like, subscribe and support the original writer. See you in the next part.